Alright, so we covered cards that people want back. It's only fitting to talk about cards that the people want banned. I want to hear your thoughts in the comments down below. If any of the cards that made it on my list are on your personal list as well. And of course, if you like the video and if you like me doing these types of discussions with you guys, please make sure to like it. Now, getting right into it, the number one, like the public enemy number one is Arise Heart. 100,000%. Pretty much everyone wants it banned at this point. Kashtira players, non-Kashtira players, everyone. It is toxic. That's just what's up. And I personally could go like literally on a tangent about how insanely stupid it is to me that a card like that exists. And then there are cards that are literally a tiny bit worse, you could say, in some, I guess, regard, that are banned. Like Trident is an amazing example, and I always draw this comparison, but like, I just hate it when they print busted cards that do a very similar thing to something that is already on the ban list, and then they print it so they can push a deck that's preferably a little more expensive, and then people play it. It's just like, I really dislike this entire thing that they do. We're just talking about Arise Heart as the actual card and what it does. I don't think a card should do as much. Like, it is literally busted that a card could be a floodgate and a banish face down, not to mention its quite easy summoning condition and being able to attach materials and everything that Arise Heart brings to the table, I think is too much. And it is shaping the format to the point where a lot of decks cannot even compete because of it. And not to mention that when you have a deck that doesn't care about banishing, you can include Shifter in it, which is the next card on the list. Not too much of a surprise, I would say, but Shifter, in my opinion as well, should probably be hit. I'm not necessarily saying it should be banned. I understand that there are some downsides to it, and I guess we could talk about those at the beginning of this discussion. So like, it has to be used when there are no cards in the graveyard, so that it is not amazing to draw in late game. But I don't think that's enough of a downside to have this card at 3 in the meta. I think the correct call would be to lessen the consistency, just put it to 2, maybe even to 1, and then see if people actually play it. But what it actually does once it resolves is too oppressive, in my opinion. And like I mentioned in the other video when I did the post on Twitter, almost everyone said that Shifter should be banned. It's not even funny. It's not like, oh, you know, I'm playing Shifter because I enjoy it. There might be some people out there, they're probably playing Flunder. I'm not hating, but some people may enjoy Shifter, sure. And I get that it's a card that should, I guess in theory, bring balance. But it is at the same time shutting off a majority of strategies, and I think that is wrong. And maybe if we still had Gamma at 3, I would be of a different opinion, but that's not the case. I would say when you have a card that's very, very oppressive and strong, you should have the same amount of outs or even more outs to it, because it's just more fair. Like, that's just what it is. And I think it's wrong that they put Gamma to 1 and then Shifter is still at 3. Putting Gamma to 1 is not an issue if they address cards that Gamma also hits, which could arguably be Joel as well, but we're not mentioning Joel in this particular list. If you think Joel should be banned, let me know down in the comments. I don't, but, you know, it's there. Just comparing it to Shifter, I guess, makes sense in this scenario. But another thing with Shifter is, now that I talked about Joel, it just came to mind, it is shutting off a lot of hand traps. So I guess it literally shuts off a strategy and then makes it so you cannot really, I guess, compete with their strategy, because a lot of your cards have to go to the grave to actually be used. And Joel, Veiler, even Ogre, if you're still playing it, all come to mind when we're talking about these things. And I also think that's an issue. So being able to just completely make strategies unplayable with this card, pairing it together with a Rise card and a deck that's fairly consistent, is just an issue in itself. So I am on the side of things where Shifter should probably be hit, not banned, but something should happen to it. So let me know your thoughts on that card. But moving on to some other cards, I want you to, I guess, see a pattern there, and you will see it immediately. The next couple of cards are Eradicator, Gimmick Puppet, and also the Hot Red Dragon Archfiend King Calamity. Did I say this name entirely correct? I think I did. But all of these cards, what they have in common is they are locks. They make it so you cannot play the game. And I really like when, you know, this kind of question gets asked by me or another person, and many people say, okay, I have an issue with cards that prevent playing or with floodgates and stuff like that. It goes to show that people actually hate those cards, and not everyone is trying to play them to win. Now, when it comes to that, this is not a video on that topic, but I guess I could mention my stance on it. I understand you play a card because it's busted. I play a card because it's busted. I play Gimmick Puppet. If I played Mannadium, I would probably play the lock. You are trying to win at the end of the day. But just looking at it objectively, we can all agree as a community that there are certain issues with those cards. So I think you need to sort of, I guess, decide for yourself what you want to do. And I don't think people should have the right to hate on you because you're playing those cards. But I still like the fact that we agree that those cards are problematic, and if they get hit, we're not going to be sad about it. It's just like, oh, okay, this is gone now. I cannot put this in my strategy. Fine. That makes the format a little more healthy. So that's pretty much what I think about it. You know, if you can play it, you probably should. You're trying to win. So there's that. But going over card by card of the cards that I mentioned, Eradicator is the first one. Now, a lot of people hate on it because it's searchable in Labyrinth, and that's an issue. The second the card that's really, really busted becomes searchable, that's kind of insane, you know? Like, when you look back at Imperial Order, and when you were able to set it with the combo of Curious and Nightmare Griffin, that's really when it became a problem. And we started really hating on it because it's like, okay, this card shouldn't be searchable. Like, you cannot do that. Please don't do that. And with Eradicator, it's very, very similar. It is not always guaranteed that the card is going to achieve something. So in my opinion, it probably shouldn't be banned because it's like, if it's not searchable, you're literally getting rid of your own resource to be able to trigger it, and it might not even work. I genuinely think that the times when Eradicator is actually game-changing are not that often, you know, when it comes to like comparing it to the times when it doesn't do that much. It's just what's up and something we need to realize even if we are pissed when we get Eradicator. The issue always lies with searchability and decks that utilize those cards, so usually I think those types of decks should be hit and then the cards can be left alone because they aren't horrible when used on their own and not searchable. Some decks also side deck it and they can't do that. I've seen it in like Rescue Ace and Dragon Link and stuff like that. Sure, why not? Let them play it. It is not searchable, or at least shouldn't be searchable, and if you're setting it with Thrust, fine, do it. You know, like I guess you drew Thrust is okay, the card is in the game. I don't necessarily think the card should be banned, just by, I guess I don't predict it being banned, but I wouldn't have an issue if it gets hit. Now, some other locks that we need to talk about, the Gimmick Puppet lock is there, but it's also kind of weird because there are some outs to it still, which is Bestios, DD Crow, and obviously preventing it from happening like Ashing Brand Diffusion. And we also need to keep in mind that Branded is changing. Chimera Branded is its own new thing, and some lists also cut Gimmick Puppet or moved it to the side because it wasn't as impactful. There are many strategies present in the meta, and in a diverse meta, it's kind of weird to like, I guess, shotgun the Gimmick Puppet combo immediately and hoping that it goes through and that you really stop your opponent from playing. It is not guaranteed. But again, I wouldn't be opposed to the card being hit because it is unhealthy and it is a lock. The main issue is that it doesn't activate, which is wild. It is just there. The second you don't have a Bestio, DD Crow, or some type of negate to prevent it from coming out, you're done. That's just what it is. And if your deck loses to Gimmick Puppet like hardcore, it is not going to be a fun time. So again, something that I would support being hit, but I also understand why people would play it because it is not going to be insane in every single combo. Sometimes you can only go for the lock. And if the lock doesn't prove itself to be useful, you probably lose the game. So it's very weird. But when it does go through, it's busted, so it probably should be hit just because of that. I want to know your thoughts, but for the last card, Another one that completely skips your opponent's turn, prevents you from playing, is the King Calamity. And one of the main issues I have with it, and I already alluded to that, is how you cannot interact with it. And that's sort of a reoccurring theme when it comes to Eradicator, Gimmick Puppet, and also this one. You shouldn't be in a position where you need to rely on having Droplet or something to prevent the King Calamity lock from happening. If there would be like an insane amount of cards to deal with it, that's a completely different thing. But when you have a lock that is able to be established through a fairly consistent combo, if it doesn't get interrupted, I think that is a big issue, and I would be for this card being hit, especially because Mannadium is the deck that utilizes it, and it can be played in a slightly different fashion where you just go for a basic board of a combo deck that can actually be interacted with or stopped or prevented or I guess broken and dealt with. So I would be very happy to see the log go, but yeah, you know, you let me know what you think. And as for the last couple of cards to round the video off, I also wanted to talk about some other floodgates that many people want banned. And on the top of the list are Anti-Spell, D-Barrier, and Skill Drain. Again, cards that prevent you from playing. And I think it's cool that we as a community realize those cards are problems, and we'll see if they get addressed, but I wanted to mention them because a lot of people talked about it. But the two cards that not that many people mentioned, but when they did, I totally understood why they hated, is Kashtira Birth and also Branded Lost. Branded Lost, another card that makes everything a little less interactive. So very much the same pattern as some of the cards on the list. But Kashtira Birth was so funny to me because I totally understand what they mean. It's like it is the most annoying card to go up against. It gives them a summon, banishes your stuff. It's searchable. And it just seems like it is always there. They always have it so they can go for Theosis or something with Unicorn and get more advantage. You get rid of some of their cards, they bring it back because of Birth. It's like the card is insane. It is one of the cards that scared me the most in that strategy. I would love to see it banned, and that's just what it is. So let me know what you think, and if you found this video interesting or entertaining, or if you share my thoughts or agree with them, disagree, whatever. I would love to hear your guys' thoughts. Make sure to sub and also ding the bell so you're notified when I post, and I'll see you in the next video.